have I ever mentioned that I had a Datsun 280ZX years ago? I bought it at this salvage yard I used to work at for $100. It was a rust bucket, but it ran pretty good. And I enjoyed the hell out of that car. And I probably never would have bought the one that I have today had it not been for owning that one first. Because those are pretty complicated little cars if they break down. And if you're not prepared to go out of your way to learn how they work, you're probably never going to keep one running. Or at least not for very long. One of the first things you have to learn, and people usually learn this the hard way about Japanese steel, is they are highly allergic to road salt. Which is really unfortunate, actually. Because one of the funnest things you could ever do in the wintertime is drive one of these cars. It's all got to do with the way they put the suspension together. They're highly responsive and they handle like a dream, especially in the snow. That is, as long as everything's working right. If you got a sway bar that's not hooked up on one spot, or something isn't linking off the other piece like it ought to, they can be a death trap. Because they'll do things that are unexpected in the middle of a high pressure situation, I guess you could say. That's exactly what we're seeing on this supposed impeachment inquiry, which isn't really what it is, on the Democratic side of things. They're trying to unlink things that should work in the judicial process, thinking that it will benefit them in what they're trying to accomplish. When the reality of it is, nothing could be further from the truth. And they're about to drive themselves into a situation that they're not going to be able to get out of. They must be desperate as hell. And like I've said before, it would appear this has a hell of a lot more to do with being afraid of something than not liking Donald Trump. Because a lot of these people who are elected representatives, especially the ones that sit on important committees, have legal backgrounds. In other words, they've been defense attorneys, they've been prosecutors, and so forth and so on. And there's something that applies across the line in the judicial process, and it's called discovery. It's where everything has to be shared between one side and the other. And for them to be attempting what they're trying to do, it's suicide. Politically and socially. So the only thing that would explain them trying to follow through with all of this is that there's something looms on the outside that's so damning that they have to try and subvert the process, change the rules in order to accomplish their outcome. And just so you know, ladies and gentlemen, if they'll do this to a sitting president, they'd be more than happy to do it to you or me. And if they're allowed to get away with it, that's exactly what's going to happen. Because for the most part, their strategies have always been about setting precedents. When they can't accomplish their goals through normal channels, they try and get their way through legal manipulation. And if this is allowed to happen, meaning changing the rules to suit their agenda, that sets a precedent and gives them free rein to undermine our Constitution. Something that should irritate the hell out of everybody and scare the hell out of them too. Because if that's allowed to happen, it changes the whole ball game. And what we believe in, or should believe in, I suppose I should say, goes right out the window. Which kind of leads me full circle to what I said in the beginning of this video. The last thing anyone should want to do with this kind of car, at least while it's in the Rust Belt where they use road salt on the roads in the wintertime, is drive it after the snow flies. Because it'll deteriorate so fast, it'll make your head spin. Well, that's exactly what I'm thinking about doing this year. Is driving this car all winter long under any conditions Mother Nature throws at us. Because our future could potentially be so bleak, what's the point in trying to save it? I might as well have some fun with it while I still can. Especially since one of the most enjoyable times to drive a car like this is in the winter time. Should I try and preserve it? Damn right I should. Because if you add up the classic cars that I own, they probably amount to being worth more than the house that I live in. But like I said, the potential for everything going off the rails is so high that I might as well enjoy what I have while I have it. Cold hard reality is, for the most part, people have better things to do than to stand up for our Constitution and our way of life. And we might as well kick the hammer down, enjoy what we have left, and wait for the bottom to fall out. Here's the sad part about it. In my opinion, we allowed all this to happen by being distracted by frivolous things, by not being willing to pick up a wrench and work on the problems as they occurred. By ignoring people's suffering because we had better things to do. That's how we got where we are today. Unless we're willing to change our attitudes and the way we approach things. That's how we'll get to where we'll be tomorrow. Just where might that be, you might ask? Well, it might look a little something like this. In a place where dreams used to exist, and through our own lack of interest and complacency, are no more. The only way to preserve anything is to try and take care of it. To put in some time and some effort, and maybe even some blood, sweat, and tears to make it last so it benefits us in the long run. And if we're not willing to do that, we might as well take it out in the ice and snow, kick it down full throttle, and get out of it whatever it has left.